Good morning. It is 10:15 and it's the time that the Land Use and Planning Committee was scheduled to start. I have emailed the committee staff and committee members that we are going to start this meeting at 10:45. And so I will recess us until that time, and we will be back in order for our regular business at 10:45. And if one of our committee staff is able to maybe put a slide up on and share it on the screen on Zoom so the public's aware, I think that could be useful. Thanks.
Hello.
Hey.
And am I supposed to use this computer with eScribe? Is that why it's not letting me?
No, that's an encoder computer.
Okay.
Yeah, that's basically a computer like the one in the council office. You don't have to run back and forth.
Okay. So I have that computer set up on Zoom.
Cool.
But
Did you get any emails from Kirsten or?
No, this is the error I'm getting.
The video encoder is locked by another meeting. Huh.
And that's why I was sprucing through this one thinking maybe I need to get on eScribe through here
No, that.
for it to. So my YouTube's working, but not my. So this is my Zoom right now. I have it because.
Yeah, you're sharing the screen.
Yep, Jordan, and I'm sharing my screen on that computer because Jordan said put something up. So
Okay.
I know it's gonna get called back to order at 10:15, so I got like 15 minutes to try and get this going again.
Huh. Let me.
But I know if worst comes to worst, I think Kirsten can get the video from MCAT to upload later. I just don't know what all that entails.
Yeah. I have no idea. I'm not as versed on the eScribe stuff.
Okay.
That's typically Marty and Kirsten's own.
Okay, well, and that's why I included all of you guys hoping
Let me
somebody would know. But
log in. I've never messed in this program, but let me see if I can find the encoders page
okay,
to see if I can unlock it.
all right, that sounds good. So Kirsten did respond. She says she's gonna look on the back end,
Yeah, I saw that.
but it didn't look like anything was weird.
Have you done anything with the pre-meeting yet?
So all I did was, and I took a snippet of it.
Mhm.
So I went to the normal over here. It usually is pre-meeting. That's where it starts when you enter it. And I did the conduct.
Mhm.
And then once I hit conduct, usually that's where it'll refresh it. I'm using the fast version. And she said to refresh it, so I just did that as well. And I am terrible with technology, so.
Oh, you're fine.
But she did say we can always get the video from MCAT, so I feel good about that for the sake of getting it. And it is live on YouTube, so we got that as the fallback as well.
Yeah.
But I don't know when it does this to me, how it's affecting my timestamps. Because usually when it conducts the meeting and you get the video streaming and recording, it will timestamp when I click on a certain part of the agenda.
Gotcha.
And that's basically so when the public goes and they only want to hear the appointments of DRB, they can click on that and it goes right to that portion of the video.
Gotcha.
And I know I can edit it later, like when I'm doing my minutes, I can always update those timestamps down the road as well once the video is available. So I guess this is just the cards I'm dealt today, huh?
Well, so you haven't done roll call or anything yet?
No, so when Jordan wanted to, he sent an email out earlier. He was just gonna call it to order at 10:15 and immediately recess until 10:45.
Gotcha. Do
So
you want to try signing out of eScribe and signing back in?
sure,
I don't really know what else to try, but
I can do that. Let's minimize there. Looking for.
huh.
Damn it. I wonder. Let's try this. I will get out of my. Where is my little.
I think if you just go to the very top, it should pop up.
Oh, there we go. I wonder if I try logging in outside.
This guy right here.
Ooh, thank you.
Sorry, you want to.
Do I want to get out of this?
Yeah, you'll want to press back. So there, yeah, that back arrow there. And then ADFS. And then, sorry, actually try an incognito window.
Oh, okay. All right, let's do right here, right?
Mm-hmm. Third one down.
There we go. Okay, and then here. Okay, there's my meeting.
What the heck?
Okay, that's the only troubleshoot I can think of.
Try refreshing the page in just a second. Let's make sure this shuts down. There's a priority system. So if this computer's on and that computer's on, the encoder picks both of them up, but it's supposed to take that one.
Okay.
So if this one's on, maybe it's causing some confusion. It's not supposed to.
Okay.
And go ahead and try.
I was gonna say, I know that it was on, the computer was on, but it was asleep.
Yeah, I think the meeting last night might have used that one. Still nothing. Do you want to try doing the sign out and sign back in?
Sure.
If you want to check that email too, might be something good from Kirsten. If that was yours, could be mine too.
That could be it.
Yeah, she sent an email back.
Yes. Okay. Okay. On the back end, neither of the encoders are streaming. I'm guessing you are set up in the council office. Can you conclude the meeting, then unadjourn it and put it back into pre-meeting mode and try and correct again?
Well, we never got into conduct meeting.
Okay. I did log out. So, and I'm out of it on here, right? Yes, I did. Okay.
And then you'll want to do an incognito window again.
Back. Okay. Okay. Let's do conclude. Exit. I guess, do I need to save anything?
Yeah, you probably need to save.
Okay. Okay, and then I believe over here, meeting mode, nope.
So what are you
There we
looking
go,
for now?
unadjourn.
Oh, okay.
There we go. Negative.
Hey, Amanda, you know we can all hear you, right?
I did not, I am sorry.
That's okay. I like to know when that happens. So
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Amanda, are you ready for us to get started?
Yep, I was just gonna chime in if you didn't hear the chatter. I did get eScribe to work again and we are live on YouTube, so we are good to roll back.
Great, that sounds good. I'm getting a message that I can't start my video, and I'm not sure if that's something that you can work out on your end. There we go. Great. Okay, we will be back in order for the Land Use and Planning Committee.
Gordon,
Yes.
we can't, just sorry to interrupt, but we can't start our videos. I still can't start mine.
Okay. It looks like I am a co-host now. I think I can. I think you should be able to now. Great. Okay, we'll be back in order. I want to thank everyone for indulging the break. I figured that if we proceeded at 10:15, we would only be the second most popular thing on television at the time, so it seemed appropriate to hold off. We'll start off with our regular agenda items, and first item is roll call. And it looks like Stacy Anderson is present, Becerra is present, Contos is absent, Harp is present, Hess is present, Jones is present, Ramos is in the meeting, and where'd you go? And Jesse, are you here? I see you're signed in. We'll assume Jesse's present. Cheryl is present. Vasika is present. Von Lossberg is present, and West is absent. We have.
And
I'm here, sorry.
Jordan,
Yes.
and Julie's here too.
Oh, I'm sorry, Julie. I skipped over you. Merritt is present as well. And okay, so we have no minutes to approve this during this meeting. This is, of course, another virtual meeting. You can join the meeting by visiting ci.missoula.mt.us/webcasts. On the agenda, there's instructions to join by phone. If you are a member of the public and wish to provide comment, you can do so by using the hand raise feature in Zoom or by pressing *9 if you've joined us by phone. We do have one member of the public here, but I believe Brian is here for one of our first agenda items. So, okay, we have two agenda items. The first is the phase development for Remington Flats subdivision phase 1, and we have Dave DeGrandpré here from Development Services to provide our staff report. Dave.
All right, thank you, Jordan. Good morning, counselors. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Sort of brief presentation. My internet's been a little bit slow lately, so let me know if you don't see it, if you don't see the presentation.
It is slowly loading for me.
Okay. How about now?
I'm not sure what others are seeing. I just have, I see your screen, but your presentation is not loaded yet.
Well, I had higher hopes for 2021, but maybe we'll just have to adjust. So I think I'll just walk you through it. You know, it's quite straightforward, really. If you have the staff report in the packet and have access to it, it should be pretty simple. So this is a phased development review for the Remington Flats subdivision. Today It is a pre-public hearing informational session with the Land Use and Planning Committee. So no decisions or motions need to be made today. But you probably recall the Remington Flats subdivision. It's a 152 lot, 7-phase subdivision out of 20 acres of land located just north of the 44 Ranch subdivision. The property is located in the Sewiptacan, hope I'm saying that, I'm sure I'm not saying that right, the Mullen Master Plan area. Still needs some pronunciation help, and form-based code area, but this project was approved under previous rules. It's zoned under Title 20 zoning and was approved under the current subdivision regulations, so is exempt from the requirements of the form-based code. Hopefully you have access to the phasing plan. That's perhaps the most important part of this. It shows the subdivision was approved in 7 phases. And within this phase, phase 1, it's at the southern end of the subdivision. It consists of 27 lots on 4.57 acres. This phase would be accessed through construction traffic would go along the west boundary of the 44 Ranch subdivision and enter the property. When the lots are developed, the 27 lots, they would have access also on that construction road along the west side, but then, and that's Chuckwagon Drive, but then also through the 44 Ranch subdivision. There are 2 roads, 2 existing city streets that would be extended to access this phase, phase 1. They're Tenderfoot Way and Riata Drive. The subdivision or this phase, it's fairly straightforward. There's another new road that would be built. It's called Remington Drive. It's an east-west road that would serve all of the lots. And then that road is planned to continue off to the east to access the subdivision that you'll be seeing here next month, the McNett Flats subdivision. So it's proposed to provide connectivity to the east and keep the grid pattern going. Landscape boulevards are proposed along the street frontages, along with sidewalks. The lots would connect to city water and sewer. There were 27 conditions of approval for the overall phase development, phase subdivision, and many of those would have to be met prior to final plat filing of phase 1. In terms of parkland, there is no parkland in this subdivision. Cash and lieu, council approved cash and lieu back in October. And so cash equal to 0.25 undeveloped acres would be required to be submitted along with the final plat. So your role with regard to a phase subdivision is to look at the application, look at the conditions of approval, look at to determine whether any conditions have changed either on the ground or in the regulatory scheme. In other words, have any new rules changed? Have there been any impacts that we've discovered, like high groundwater? Has that suddenly emerged? We realize that this is important wildlife habitat where we didn't think it was prior, things along those lines. So you're looking at the approval that you have and trying to determine whether any new conditions have emerged, any new impacts have emerged that we were unaware of or you were unaware of when you granted preliminary approval. And if so, then you're authorized under state law to apply additional conditions of approval. You have a staff report before you, and the staff report, like I said, we just went through this, just reviewed the application in full in September and October. You granted preliminary approval October 19th, pretty short time ago. And so when I was reviewing this, looking back, writing the staff report, looking back at the staff report, looking back at the application and the conditions, I found that I didn't think any conditions had changed. And so, as you can see, going through the staff report, when we did the preliminary plat review, we gave it a pretty hard look. 25 conditions were applied, and so I didn't see any additional impacts that would necessitate additional conditions. So, and the criteria we have, of course, under subdivision law are effects on agriculture, agricultural water user facilities, wildlife and wildlife habitat, the natural environment, local services, and others that are detailed in your staff report. when we received this notice from the developer at 406 Engineering to move forward, that they would like to move forward with this first phase, we sent a request for comment out to city departments, city agencies, and no one has expressed any concern or we haven't received any feedback really, other than no additional conditions are warranted. Also, we've not received any public notice regarding it. So I don't think there's really a whole lot more to say on my end, but I'm again, there's no motion to be taken today. I'll try to make sure we have access to the presentation during the public hearing. The public hearing is coming up here pretty quick. Let's see. It's the 25th, so it's Monday night. And the public will have an opportunity to comment, but I really don't have a whole lot to add, but would certainly be willing to take any questions. And it looks like Brian Throckmorton with 406 Engineering is here. He represented the developer and helped to put together the application. So he's also available for questions and maybe he has something to add.
Okay, great. Thank you, Dave, for that. Brian, do you want to add anything, or do you want to just be available for questions?
No, I mean, I kind of second what Dave is. There's, really we haven't changed much since we had approval back in October. We're waiting to get going on the construction to meet our conditions of approval after this meeting. So, we've submitted a preliminary final plat that has a lot of those conditions already on it. But as far as the construction and everything that we have for conditions, that will come after this meeting, and the city council meeting on the 25th will allow us to kind of get going to meet our conditions of approval.
Okay, great. That sounds good. We have a couple of questions here. We've got Becerra and then Harp.
Thank you. Just a quick question. If phase 1 is approved, what would be the time frame for construction? When do you anticipate construction to begin, and for how long?
So we would begin pretty soon. So we have our engineering plans in with the city right now through the stage 3 process. We've been going back and forth with them, ensuring that we meet all the city standards. So that probably has another couple weeks to a month. Once that is approved, it would allow us to begin construction. So I would say mid-March, it's kind of weather depending, we would start the construction process, starting with, our deepest item, sewer first, and then working our way, streets would end up being last.
And how long do you anticipate it would take until you actually have the lots developed?
So you're probably going to look at mid-August, I would say, but that really depends. We're seeing things like PVC shortages, things of just trying to get people to come out and build through that whole process. So it's really hard to tell right now in the construction world, but I would say that you're going to be mid to late summer. And then at that point, we would file for final plat approval and go through this whole process. You'll probably see, mid, late summer, early fall.
Great. And just quick follow-up. Do you have a plan in place for traffic and safety? I guess the reason I'm asking is there are a lot of children who live in 44 Ranch, and they'll see a lot of construction traffic during the summer, which is where they're usually home. So I would ask that if you to make sure that plan takes that into account.
So all our construction traffic will go on the road base or the start of Chuckwagon Drive, which at that point really has maybe a few houses in 44 Ranch that enter onto it. But
4 or 5 houses,
Yeah, so the idea is to minimize any construction traffic going through major areas of residential. So trying to get it to Chuckwagon as McNett Flats gets constructed, while at the same time, that'll dump us right onto George Elmer. Which again is where you want your high density traffic to go. So we are going to have construction traffic not running through 44 Ranch, through Riata or Tenderfoot in the residential areas is our plan.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, thanks. Next, Ms. Harp.
Thank you. Good morning. Brian, thank you very much for
Yeah.
for being here today. I think when in the month since the Remington Flats was first brought before us, I've learned a few things, and I'm kind of curious in regards to the design itself, in terms of when I look at on the west end, there's that one particular block that has an alley that runs north-south through it. And then I don't see any of the other blocks having an alleyway that runs through it. And I'm wondering if you could just kind of just speak to the rationale behind that.
So on the west end, the alley is so that we're not having anybody come out on a chuck wagon. So those houses will face chuck wagon. But since that is an artery road, you really don't want traffic, coming out of their driveway onto that. So that definitely is an alley right there, just as a safety issue.
Mhm.
The lack of alleys, we do have alleys along the southern boundary as well that we're coming onto. But instead of having all alley loads and losing a lot of backyards, I don't know if you guys recall, but I did present and kind of showed the lack of a backyard when you have an alley load versus a front load. And right now, it's not all, but we're seeing more people wanting a backyard versus loading in an alley and having more of a front load where they can build above their garage with their house and come into the front and still maintain somewhat of a backyard. When we put those garages in the back, you can't park in front of your garage. You have to park inside your garage because you only have about a 10-foot setback. And then that garage takes up so much of the yard that, from what we're seeing, our standpoint, more buyers are wanting that front load with a backyard. So that's our design is kind of hinting towards that. But there are still some alley loads within our phase 7, and phase 1 has actually more alley loads than front loads.
Okay. And remind me, Brian, these are 5.4, so 5,400 as a minimum lot
Well,
size
that's on an average. So
on
that,
average. Okay.
yeah, so that rule changed a few years ago to where instead of a minimum, it's an average throughout. So that way the TED doesn't have an advantage as far as density goes.
So that the TED doesn't have an advantage for density?
Yeah, so before with the TED, since the way the ownership went of the roads, you could get the 5,400 was an average. So that's the city council had voted to change that. I think it was about 2 years ago. Dave, maybe you can remember, right when we started Remington Flats, there was an interim for a little while that then went to the densities per lot changed to an average, not just per lot. So.
Yeah, I think that was when we did the last round of TED modifications, and Brian said it was to make it so that TEDs weren't necessarily more advantageous than subdivisions in that case.
Okay. Thanks, Brian. Appreciate the feedback on that.
Great. I don't have anyone else with a hand up. Does anyone else have any questions on this? Okay, this is, as Dave mentioned, this is a pre-public hearing, so we'll have this back for public hearing. And I believe, Dave, that's this coming Monday, isn't it? Yes. Okay. Okay. I'll note for the record also, there's no public here to comment. Okay. So without anything further on this item, we can move on to our second and final item. This is, of course, our appointments to the Design Review Board. So a little bit of background here. Several of these appointments are for positions that have been vacant and filled by incumbents that have been serving beyond or serving an expired term. So we have 8 positions for 3 different term lengths. We have 2 one-year terms, 3 two-year terms, and 3 three-year terms. a small group, the Land Use and Planning Appointments Subcommittee met last winter, right before the pandemic hit, and conducted a number of interviews. And then, of course, we finished up some interviews over the last several weeks in this committee. So a whole slew of positions to get this board back up to full membership. And it looks like Brian has his hand up. Brian and Gwen served on the appointment subcommittee and have been involved in all of the interviews. So I'll turn it over to Brian. Brian, do you have a motion for us?
Yeah, I do. Thanks. And if everyone will bear with me, as Jordan described, trying to stitch together sort of a process that started pre-pandemic and then continued. So without further ado, I'll make a proposal for a slate of candidates and then can take some questions and stuff. Fortunately, I took a lot of notes on the interviews in that subcommittee, and I know Gwen and Jordan and I, so I had some material to go back over. And if it's okay, Jordan, I'll present it this way. We'll have to work it into the wording of the terms, but my intent is for the 3-year terms, I'm going to kind of work backwards. I'd like to nominate Thane, who's an architect, Prinzing, also architect, and McMillan. So I don't have enough screens or windows open to figure out the dates, but those 3 for 3-year terms. Continuing, I'd like to recommend Smith, Chestnut, and Top. So Smith, Chestnut, and Top for 2-year terms. Smith is a landscape architect, urban designer. Chestnut is a licensed civil engineer. Top is an architect. And then for the 1-year term, I'd like to nominate Slobod and also designate her as the alternate. She preferred in the interview, as one of the questions we asked everyone, to actually serve as the alternate. And then Briggs, who's also an architect. So I believe that's the 8. That would fill us 8 and covers the 1-year, 2-year, and 3-year terms.
Okay, and I'm going to fill in a couple of things as well. That Slobod meets the requirement. She works in graphics and signage and wayfinding, and McMillan fills the role of the builder developer. Okay.
And if one other thing, if I could just add, is it okay?
Yeah, please.
Rationale behind this was obviously content in the interviews and then the skill set of those people across the sort of matrix of skill sets that we're looking for. And I want to also acknowledge Matt Loomis has served on this board for quite some time. I'm not proposing him in the slate of candidates, and I want to thank Mr. Loomis for his service. Very transparently, I have a belief in the best nonprofits I've served on have had term limits for board members and sort of forced turnover on those boards. And I think we're blessed to have a lot of interest in serving on here. And I think it would be good to just provide some, every slot we can for some new people there. So I want to thank Mr. Loomis for his service on it and recognize the length of it and just acknowledge, why I'm making the recommendation I'm making.
Okay. Thank you, Brian. Gwen?
I'll just briefly add that, I think this is a good slate to nominate, and the nature of this board is changing. It's becoming, frankly, more technical because of the design excellence review component that it is tasked with. And so it calls for a lot of specific expertise slots that need to be filled. So it was a bit of a puzzle to really put all together and make sure that those are hit. But I think this nomination slate does that. So I'm in favor of it.
Okay, thank you. For the record, John Contos has joined us. And I don't see any other hands up. Would anyone like to provide additional feedback? Heather.
I really do like the slate of candidates that Brian has brought forth, and I would second that.
Great. Stacy?
Thanks so much, Jordan. And I really appreciate the context that Brian gave in regards to some of the changes of, kind of what we're looking for in this board and the responsibilities and the expertise that are needing as things get more complex. And, we are, when we've done these interviews for various boards of the past, always impressed with the people who are willing to give, of their time. These are, not paid boards that are giving of their expertise and their time. And we're so lucky to have so many people who are willing to serve this community in that way. And just thank Mr. Loomis for his time and look forward to seeing him in other capacities serving our community, but really understand that the nature of this board is changing and some of the requirements needed. So we're very fortunate, and I appreciate the folks who are willing to step forward and serve, and I am supportive of this slate.
Okay. Thanks, Stacy. I'll just add that I think, as with all of our boards and commissions, we end up with such a slate of quality candidates. And it's really a great service to our community that we have so many good people willing to step up and serve. Design Review Board is going to take on new and more varied and more challenging roles with the Design Excellence Review, and I think I'm excited to see that process. I think that that this slate of design professionals will be a huge asset to people bringing projects through the design review process. So I think that that's just a real exciting group that we've got going here. I appreciate, and I want to specifically thank Brian and Gwen for their work on the land use and planning appointment subcommittee, which was a short-term subcommittee that was sort of a pilot project. I think it went very well, and I think there's some things we can learn about our appointment process, and maybe simplify it a little bit and clean it up a little bit. So I'd be happy to assist with that moving forward for other committees as well. Okay, we have a motion on the floor, and we will, barring anything else, there's no public for comment, so we'll take a roll call vote.
Anderson,
Yes.
Becerra,
Yes.
Contos,
Abstain?
Harp,
Yes.
Hess,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Merritt,
Yes.
Ramos,
Yes.
Cheryl,
Yes.
Fasika,
Yes.
Von Lossberg.
Yes.
All right, I have 10 yeses and 1 abstain. It looks like the motion passes.
Okay, motion passes, and that can go on our consent agenda. And we have no further business, so we will be adjourned. Thanks, everyone.